Now, the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria have suspended for 30 days the indefinite strike slated to commence today, Tuesday. This follows a memorandum of understanding reached with the federal government to address the cost of living crisis. In exchange for suspending the indefinite strike action, the federal government will strictly adhere to fulfill the terms of the agreement reached by the two parties in the negotiation meetings held on Sunday and Monday at the presidential villa in Abuja. Our former Trade Union Congress President Peter Esele joins us now to discuss Labour's decision. Good to have you on Arise News and a very warm welcome. Let's get straight into it, Mr. Esele. Some people are viewing this as a sign of a listening government and some are viewing this as a political play. In your opinion, is this a win or a failure?
Thank you for having me. I will not say it's a failure, but I will just look at the fact that it's a negotiation. Two parties need to meet and they have to continue. And I also heard some people also saying that Labour has chickened out. But I just said the reason why you have trade unions as their main responsibility is to serve as a pressure group and not to grind the country to a halt. So have we made progress? I'll look at the glass as half full rather than half empty. Yes, from where they were a couple of months back. Now the federal government has agreed. The president in his address said 25,000 naira provisional payment, but now it has been moved to 35,000 naira. So in the course of the 30 days postponement, it will give room for more JoJo.
Well, noted, Peter. Now, of course, without surprise, you do know there's a trust deficit when it comes to organized labor and the government and how they relate. But do you think that organized labor should have pushed for something, a bit more tangible in that meeting as opposed to another set of promises and, potential proposals on the part of the government?
Yes, I quite agree with you that there is trust deficit, but the options available to organized labor are also quite limited. First, organized labor also need to look at the state of the economy, also look at the country. And in doing all of this, what the organized labor will try to factor in is you notice that they are pushing towards CNG, they are pushing towards cost of transportation. And what I expect government to do is those are the two key areas that I think government should put their attention on, which is one, make sure minimum wage is increased. Secondly, the transportation, you need to do something because right now people spend between 60 to 75% of their monthly earnings on transportation. So if government is able to look at all of that, I also expect government to have what I call an omnibus plan. Omnibus plan in the sense that not just the federal government, you have both federal, you have state, and you have local government. Majorly transportation, providing transport system is the responsibility of the state. And then you also look at the local government. So if they have this omnibus plan, whereby the federal, the state, and the local government key into a particular plan, it makes it easier for it to cascade down and to make life easier for the common man.
Right, and one of the items, of course, on the Memorandum of Understanding is the creation of a minimum wage committee, which is supposed to be instated within the next month. Now, the concern is that the issue here is the minimum wage, but it seems the focus of this MOU is leaning towards palliatives. Now, where is organized labor putting their pressure? Is it about palliatives or is it about increasing the earning of the ordinary man who's currently earning just $1 a day?
Now, organized labor is taking it from, I would call it a three-pronged approach. First is, if you look at minimum wage, increasing minimum wage, it's not going to affect every Nigerian. It's going to be, it will look in quotes as if organized labor just being selfish, caring only about their members. Because members are going to get minimum wage, members are going to get salary increase. There are members of organized labor that have already gotten salary increase before the government is doing what they're doing, those in the private sector. So what they want to do, the palliative aspect of it, I don't like using the word palliatives, I have to call it the government intervention. The intervention aspect of it is what will benefit the entire country or every Nigerians who have benefit, including you in Arise, which is looking at the cost of transportation, providing cheaper means of transport system. And then for those who are also vulnerable, the president have agreed that they will pay 25,000 naira for the next 6 months. So what they are trying to do is to make sure that the largesse or whatever is going to come out of all this, peter down to everybody.
We hear you. Of course, you mentioned, and I couldn't miss that, the omnibus plan that would involve the federal, state, and local government collaborating. Do you care to go into detail regarding what that looks like?
Okay, one of the things why I use the word omnibus plan is that you look at the federal government. The federal government is the macro aspect of the economy. Then the micro aspect of the economy is actually the state and the local government. For example, I look at myself, federal government really don't have any citizens tied to it, in quote. But I have a place of residence. The place of residence is, for example, I'm based in Lagos. And if I'm based in Lagos, the direct impact, the direct governor or government that I know is, first of all, where I reside. That's the local government. And then the state government, where the federal government becomes secondary. So if the federal government makes money available, for example, and said, okay, Lagos state government or Abia state government, make 300 buses available, we'll match it. So who is directly affected? That's me. And then if they do that, then it cascades down. You have a local government, the state government get, okay, we are getting 1,000 buses. And then we now decide that, oh, we are going to share these 1,000 buses among maybe 20 local governments, 5 buses per local government. What you have now, it has also cascaded down. So instead of the local government getting their allocation to spend for whatever they like, that now go in to take care of people in the rural areas. And then the state government also makes certain amount of buses available in a city like Lagos. Now we also have the rail system that has come up in Lagos that will also ameliorate the cost of transportation. So the omnibus plan is having the local government making funds available that is going to come from the center, the state government also making funds available. And let me also tell you something that had happened based on all of this, is that we had devaluation. Devaluation had two sides. There is the upside and there is the downside. The downside is that inflation, and then the upside is that the government has much more money to spend because it's doing conversion from dollar to naira. And I will tell you in August, yes, I think in August, the total amount of money shared, the total amount of money available, I don't know whether they shared it because they also need to fight inflation in terms of the monetary and the fiscal aspect of the economy. The total amount available for the Federation account in August was 1.9 trillion. While in July, what you have was about 785 billion. So what you are having now is that the federal, state, and local government are awash with so much money now than previously. So it will take an omnibus plan to have this money actually tied into a place whereby every citizen of this country will benefit from it.
I'm glad we're talking about plans and we're talking about execution, because what ends up being the niggling moments of some of these policies and proclamations, of course, implementation. Now, we're also looking at an item that provides for small and medium-scale enterprises. We're looking at the sharing of money for various workers and so forth, which has always been a point of controversy for past governments. What are your recommendations that this time around we don't see the controversy that usually associates this distribution of funds?
I think we are still going to see it. We are still going to see that. But what I expect of this president to do, which will slightly be different from what others have done, is that the National Economic Council should be part of the process of negotiation. The vice president, who happens to be chairman of that council, and some selected governors, including the chairman of the Governors Forum, so that whatever is done is now taken as a policy that will be shared among the various tiers of government. And then you also made reference to the fact that you are talking about, there's a commission that is supposed to be in place. We have the Salaries and Wages Commission. It's there by law. So what one expects is that labor is not supposed to come and tell government that you need to increase salaries. It's supposed to be done every 5 years. It's a law. So one of the biggest problems we face in our country is the lack of respect for our laws. And when you keep doing this, there will be trust deficit, not just by organized labor, also by Nigerians. And once you start having Nigerians not trusting their government, then gradually nobody cares and you start having people wanting to take laws into their hands. So government, what I expect them to do is first, the National Economic Council needs to be part of that negotiation. And I think the way the labor leaders are going about it, it's okay. And when I looked at it, and I think it's well planned. So now you have government have 30 days, and if they don't do it again, then they will call for another round of strike or protest.
And like you said, there's a possibility that organized labor might call for another round of strike or protest. But we talked about the trust deficit between the government and organized labor. What about organized labor and everyday Nigerians that might view organized labor as having more bark than bite, since it constantly makes, threats and backs down at the 11th hour?
I think the challenge for Nigerians is that we need to understand how organized labor works. Most times we look at organized labor the way we look at the president of Nigeria or the governor of a state in Nigeria, because the president of Nigeria is so powerful. The president of Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress are not as powerful as the president of Nigeria. You notice that the Central Working Committee had a meeting and threatened that the strike will go on. And then when the federal government called for a meeting, to be able to attend those meetings, you notice that they had to call an emergency meeting, because that is how the system works. That's one. Then secondly, we must know that organized labor is a pressure group. And as a pressure group is to draw attention to the challenges affecting Nigerians and affecting its members in particular. So when they are drawing this, it's not adversarial. So because of this trust deficit, because of how we have been maltreated by past governments, so Nigerians look at organized labor as their last hope. Meanwhile, while looking at them as last hope, we are looking at them that they should come out and just cripple the country. No, organized labor can do that. It's not part of the game or part of the way we are trained to look at things. First, you have to take your emotions away. It's only when everything has failed that you cannot call for an indefinite or a nationwide strike. But once there's a tiny window for negotiation, you have to go and negotiate.
All right, and we just have 1 minute left. And, as we're talking about going to negotiate, in the next 30 days, do you see organized labor's bargaining power multiplying or being diluted between now and the next 30 days?
It will multiply. Just imagine if they are going to strike today, you would have nobody will lift petrol. You would have no petrol supply to any of the fueling stations in the country. Just imagine that they're going to strike today, you would have no aviation fuel, and there's likelihood that you are not going to have any flight flying. So organized labor need to factor that in. But right now, I think they are in a much stronger position than they were at the beginning.
Well, former Trade Union Congress President Peter Esele, we really appreciate your time here on Newsday as well as your insight. Thank you for joining us.